be touted as the most eligible candidate. And Rose, scantily clothed, approach. You know, I think she done something to her hair. Hey, hey, hurricane, which way do you blow today?
I know it's taking me a while here to figure all this stuff out. We're getting there though.
The vicious smile away sometimes does. Whisper something about Oklahoma and the legend of the disappearing atheist.
All right, this is my favorite part.
Well, conversation stalled and all I spent on hurricane. As he inquired of the bishop how half that.
All right, enough of that. It turns out that when I share here from OBS and go live, and then I want to use captions on Restream, that doesn't work. Apparently, Restream doesn't put in the captions that I'm selecting. So anyhow, that song is Hurricane from a band called The Shademakers, which I can freely play because I was in that band, and so the copyright on YouTube, etc., I don't need to really concern myself with. So I won't run into that copyright problem by playing some rock and roll music. Anyhow, here's what I want to talk about today, and the title of this is Bitcoin is Truth. And the reason I'm putting that up there is because for me, coming into the public forum and just going live and sharing what I'm experiencing and what I'm thinking about helps me to actually flush out my own truth, my own values around what I think I see in the world, and then to come back and listen and then question, well, does that make any sense, or can I really stand behind that, or was that, ridiculous for me to even think that? So in a way, this is my my process for getting to the place I need to get to around any of the ideas that I'm fostering and thinking about, and actually, when I advise clients and people that come to me for financial advice and spiritual guidance, I need to be sure I'm standing on solid ground. And so when I think in terms of putting up something like Bitcoin is truth, where am I coming from? And so here we go. This is what I'm thinking about when I say that, is that when I reflect back to, again, 2008, back to the financial crisis, even the one previous to that, and then everything that's been going on spending-wise, everything that we're experiencing in the world financially, I think that what happens is we begin to not understand the money system itself. So when I say Bitcoin is truth, what I'm really looking at is the fact that we can't grapple with the idea of the way the money system works because it's not realistic. And what do I mean by that? You and I can't just print ourselves out of some bad decisions we make. And I've talked about this before, but I really need to flush this out. When the government bails out companies and individuals and even themselves for making really poor financial choices and just print money and throw it at that problem, we can't understand that because it's not something we can do as individuals. We can't just print up money and just correct the problem. We have to go through the cleansing and the suffering of that. And so what I see is that we have this financial system that is built on sand. It's not built on solid ground. It's not built on a rock that is firm where you can count on it. It's actually disappearing below our very feet. And because of that, as individuals, because we are creative beings, because as Ludwig von Mises says, only the individual thinks, only the individual reasons, and only the individual acts. And he was an economist from the Australian School of Economics who wrote this great book called Human Action. And in that, he states that. And what I hear in that is that we actually don't get it. It's like we can't be with what's happening, so we're confused. And, when we get handouts and more handouts, or when people get handouts and are just bailed out of their poor choices financially, we actually don't understand it. And what I think happens is the more that goes on, we lose trust in the system. We don't understand money, and it ends up with people not paying attention to their finances, not opening their statements, not actually treating money as a part of them. And I think it's spiritually, money represents our human action, our activity. We work, we spend so much of our time giving of ourselves in order to earn financial freedom, if possible, which is represented by money. And we use that money in an exchange of energy with others. And so where I'm coming from is it's sacred. It's sacred ground, and it's not treated as such by the powers, the people, the institutions that hold the power over money. Which brings me to Bitcoin, in that the fact that it has a limited supply, the fact that there's only 21 million Bitcoin that can ever be mined and used in the system, it has that scarcity. But what it does is it holds people accountable. The current financial system we have, there's zero accountability for the ones in power over it. And that is not you and I. That's not us as individuals. Those are, it's basically a cartel that controls the banking system, controls the flow of money, makes the decisions, decides who they're going to bail out, when they're going to bail them out, decides how much is going to be printed, who it's going to be given to. They set the rules, and us as individuals, when we see it, we actually can't be with it because it doesn't make sense. It's not truthful. And I believe we are truthful. We are good at our soul, at our core. We are good individuals living in truth or wanting to live in truth, and that system does not support it. And therefore, it leads to the system that we are unfolding now, which is a system where handouts, where people are actually getting to a place where it feels like we're encouraged to not produce anything. Again, Ludwig von Mises, all rational action is in the first place individual action. Only the individual thinks, only the individual reasons, and only the individual acts. And when we act, we exchange our time and energy for money so that we can feed our families, pay our mortgages, go on vacations, whatever that is. That is sacred stuff. We only have so much time in this realm. And for me, it's sacred. And when the very fabric of how we exchange energy, the most, and what I mean by that, I guess economically, the way we exchange energy the most is through finance. When it's disrespected and not treated as sacred ground, and I'm not talking about worshiping money. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about treating it as each one of us, our time and our energy. Could be time away from the ones you love, could be time away from doing things that you love to do. Whatever that is, it is your commitment, putting in that energy and that time. You receive money for it, and then the very money that you're given is devalued on an ongoing basis and flaunted like it's worthless. You know, at $120 billion a month in the US alone of printing, just printing it into thin air or out of thin air into thin air, however you want to look at that, that's what I'm talking about. And I believe that what Bitcoin is showing us, whether it, you know, continues on, whether it survives or doesn't just survive, that's not what I'm here to argue at this point. There's people in the Bitcoin space that are way smarter than I am. They get it at a much higher level than I do in terms of how it's created, how the whole system works, what blockchain is. But what I've seen in my own experience of it, of being not for it, to moving to, you know, first starting to buy it in 2019 to where I am today, where I actively pursue getting more Bitcoin. It's because I've gone on this journey of almost a spiritual level where I see it as truth. It is the equalizer. It's showing me that the game over here, the fiat currency game, is built on sand, and Bitcoin is built on rock. And right now, I see that as the place to put my trust, not in the fiat. I need fiat every day, to spend and do all that stuff, but I don't trust it being around. I believe it's losing value every second that I hold it. It is worth less and less. And I didn't understand this for the longest time, but there was always this feeling in me like there's something wrong here. There's something not quite right. I believe this is what I'm talking about, is that lack of trust, that lack of goodness, that lack of truth that our current money system has is what has, you know, basically had me move over to the ledger, move over to the electronic ledger, the blockchain ledger of Bitcoin. So I invite you, I'm going to close off now, but I invite you to really have a look at that, to really, ask yourself that question, like, what is it about the current financial system that just doesn't feel right, that feels icky, that it feels like I can't get ahead. It feels like, everything I do just ends up worthless in some capacity. Does it feel like you're just working and grinding and grinding and grinding and you're not getting ahead anywhere? You're not moving forward. And if that's the case, I invite you to look, is it because the system that you're playing into is actually quicksand? It isn't stable. It's not something you can stand on. It's actually something that's designed to erode below the very place that you call home. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will put us back to some Shademaker music here. Why don't I? Let's see. Why don't we play something else? Here we go. We're gonna play. I think I got it. Oh yeah, I always have to. I have too many buttons here. Here we go. All right, listening to Bloom Your Life, Bitcoin is Truth. Taking us out is the Shademakers. I think I got it.